It's time for something new. Definitely time for something new. I'm here to talk to you about something that I kind of been thinking about wanting to do. It is called a what if story. And that is a what if story about, and that is called what if AJ Lee stayed with the WWE. Now, sorry if you can't really see that, it's written backwards because of my camera. So, yes, what if April Brookes, AJ Lee, decided to stay in the WWE? Now, a lot of you people are probably wondering, how would this affect? Would this affect anything? You know, seeing what ifs and talking about what ifs, it kind of made me wonder how would I be able to affect the story, because that's what ifs are. You got to think of a way to enhance the story. So I've been thinking that I think it would be best if we rewound this story all the way back to 2015. Are you ready? Let's get started on what if AJ Lee never left WWE in 2015. Let's go. Alright, let's get this started. Now, the first thing I could see possibly happening is that there are going to be some slight changes. There definitely will be some slight changes. I'm going to say that right now, that there will be some slight changes to this story. First things first, there'd be no PCB, no Team Bella, and no Team Bad. Yes, there would be none of them. Sasha, Charlotte, and Becky would still debut on the main roster, but they would be working as solo acts instead of being in part of 3 pointless tag teams that really did not make any sense in the long run. So anyway, let's get this started. But before I get into anything else, some of you people are wondering, does Nikki Bella still break the record? Just for story's sake, yes, she does. But instead we're gonna make that a bit more better than before. Nikki Bella originally defended the Divas Championship 5 times in her entire run when she was the Divas Champion. So I think we'll up the ante and make her look like a real fighting champion. Her first title defense is against Naomi at Extreme Rules, just like the original. Nikki goes over and successfully retains her title, losing to Naomi and Tamina at Payback in a tag team match. Then she fights against Paige at Money in the Bank and falls short, and fights her a couple of times on an episode of Raw. So what do I think would have changed? Well, AJ definitely would have been in the mix, but not really in a title contention. I think AJ Lee would have taken some period of time off. She would have taken some time away, not retire. I think she would just take a time away from the company during this period of time. She would give other people a chance. Then maybe then what about SummerSlam? SummerSlam was different because SummerSlam had Team Bella, Team PCB, and Team Bad at SummerSlam. Who would Nikki Bella would have fought? Yes, that's actually a good question. I think if I was to make a guess, I would have Nikki Bella take on Becky Lynch at SummerSlam and have Nikki Bella once again go over just like as originally. Because remember, she has to keep the title by Night of Champions, because that is around about the time she gets close to the record. On day 295, she has that celebration about how she's about to break that record of 295 days. This is where I would bring AJ Lee back into the mix. AJ comes out skipping, getting a big reaction from the crowd. AJ then tells Nikki, if you want to break my record, you're gonna have to beat me. And this is how Nikki Bella breaks her record. Charlotte Flair, however, still becomes the #1 contender for the Divas Championship. Because remember, she did win that beat the clock challenge. So AJ Lee and Nikki Bella have a match on Raw. If AJ wins, then obviously Nikki Bella does not break her record. However, if Nikki Bella wins, then she breaks AJ's record. So basically what happens here is the fact that, AJ's about to win. She has the Black Widow. She's got the Black Widow on good and tight. And Nikki Bella is about to tap out. Brie Bella gets on the apron and has the referee distracted, and Nikki starts tapping out. Starts tapping, and the referee just does not see it because Brie Bella is on the apron. And Charlotte Flair comes running down, spearing Brie. Completely spearing the hell out of Brie Bella. AJ gets distracted because she sees Brie Bella on the outside, and Charlotte takes her out. AJ turns around, takes an elbow to the head, and gets knocked out cold and takes the rack attack for the pin count. 1, 2, 3. Nikki Bella is now the longest reigning Divas champion. And then at Night of Champions, Charlotte Flair goes over Nikki Bella. Charlotte Flair beats Nikki and becomes the new Divas champion at Night of Champions, ending the 301-day reign of Nikki Bella. What happens with AJ then? Well, Nikki Bella would get her rematch in October. Remember, she did get another title match at Hell in a Cell, so that wouldn't change. So that wouldn't have changed. And sure enough, Charlotte Flair does go over Nikki Bella at Hell in a Cell as per normal. Now this is where things get a little bit tricky, because the women did not have a Women's Survivor Series. So I would definitely pull a curveball just a little bit here. I would have AJ Lee replace Paige in this whole scenario. And instead of AJ, trying to turn AJ heel, we can just have her, wanting to fight Charlotte out of respect. And AJ's never won at Survivor Series. She wants to end that she wants to break that curse by wanting to win against Charlotte Flair. Sure enough, Charlotte Flair makes AJ tap out to the figure 8. And AJ's now 0-3 at Survivor Series. And AJ once again gets another title match at TLC. But, this is where they slowly turn Charlotte heel, because Ric Flair does that whole foot on the rope thing, and, that cost Paige the match. So, same thing happens to AJ here. Same thing happens to AJ, but instead of tapping out, she takes the figure 8 for the pin. Now we head into 2016. What happens in 2016? Well, Charlotte Flair turns on Becky Lynch, and she turns heel. What about Paige, though? What is she going to be doing? Well, I think Paige, at this point, wouldn't really have much to do, considering she's just in some pointless feud right now. She'd be in the middle of a useless feud that I think would not have made any sense. So anyway, I digress. I think the only thing I could see Paige possibly doing, for people who are curious or wanting to know what Paige would do, I think the only thing I could see Paige possibly doing is having some matches with Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks going over Paige a couple of times, just because. And you know what? Just because I think I would have it. Just because I would definitely change the Royal Rumble. Not saying Charlotte versus Becky was a bad match. I just think, maybe upping the ante would have been pretty good. Instead of it being a singles match, it would be a fatal 4-way. What, a fatal 4-way, Patrick? Yeah, I think a fatal 4-way would be good. You could have Charlotte Flair, you can have Becky, you can have AJ, and Sasha Banks, or Paige, depending who you'd want. I think Sasha, just because. And Charlotte Flair once again goes over by pinning AJ Lee. because, I think people wouldn't be too happy if it was, Sasha that took the loss. So we'll just say AJ Lee once again takes the pinfall. And I think heading into Fastlane, instead of it being Sasha and Becky teaming together to take on Naomi and Tamina, I would have AJ team with Becky instead, taking on the team of Naomi and Tamina. And then maybe on like a Monday Night Raw, you could have Sasha Banks confront AJ and demand a match with her at WrestleMania. At first, AJ declines because she has to worry about Naomi and Tamina with Becky Lynch. And this is where Sasha begins to get a little desperate. Sasha decides to attack Paige just because she knows Paige is AJ's friend, so she would want to take advantage and attack her best friend just to try and get under her skin. And Sasha would also cost AJ a couple of matches against Naomi just because on Monday Night Raw. Becky would go over a couple of times, winning a couple of matches here and there. But then at Fastlane, this is where things get interesting. Because if you know in the original at Fastlane, it was Sasha and Becky, and they went over Naomi and Tamina. Instead of it being Sasha and Becky that goes over, it'll be Naomi and Tamina that goes over instead. Instead of it being a typical babyface victory, just because, I'd have Sasha Banks come out and ruin this tag team match, making AJ Lee lose the match, like come out and attack her, and which that causes Naomi and Tamina to take advantage and take out Becky Lynch and pin her 1, 2, 3. And this is where AJ Lee would then accept the match at WrestleMania. What about WrestleMania? What's going to happen at WrestleMania? If you're putting AJ in a match with Sasha, well, how is this going to affect WrestleMania? Well, yes, that's actually pretty good. That's pretty interesting. I think WrestleMania would have changed monumental, in my opinion. What would have changed? Well, some of the participants, of course. Instead of it being Sasha, it will be Paige that takes Sasha's position. It'll be Charlotte, Becky, and Paige competing for the new Women's Championship at WrestleMania. And that is how, and that goes down that road. Now, who is going to take the pinfall or the submission? I would have Paige do that, just because I think Becky can play the role of Sasha. People would expect Becky to walk out as the winner, and being screwed over by Ric Flair, and Paige takes the taps out to the figure 8, just so then you can prolong their feud just a little bit more. And what else? And what about the other times? Well, Raw after Mania would be the same. Charlotte would be standing on her podium, blabbering about how great she is, that she's the queen of WWE, and blah 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 blah, all that other stuff. But just because I'm generous, Natalya will still have her feud with Charlotte. Natalya would still have her 2-month feud with Natalya. Natalya would still have her 2-month feud with Charlotte, losing at Payback and losing at Extreme Rules. Now, as for the other women, here is what I propose. Some of you are probably wondering what would have happened with AJ and Sasha at WrestleMania. Just because, and I'm not trying to be a suck-up here, I would have AJ go over Sasha just because of one reason. Sasha still has yet to win at WrestleMania currently, so I'm going to be sticking by the current reasons and have Sasha, lose in her first WrestleMania. But then at Payback, you can have Sasha and AJ have a second match, and that is when you can have Sasha go over AJ. And also, Becky Lynch would be in a feud with Emma. Instead of Emma being injured, you can have them actually wrestle this time at Extreme Rules on the pre-show. And as much as I'd hate to admit it, I guess having Becky Lynch go over Emma at Extreme Rules wouldn't be such a bad idea. Sorry, Emma. But now we move on to Money in the Bank. instead of being Becky Lynch as the one as Natalia's tag team partner, because like I said, Emma's not injured. I will not have Emma get injured. Instead of Emma being injured and forcing Becky Lynch to move on to something new, I'd have Becky and Emma continue their feud onto Money in the Bank. Emma would go over Becky Lynch this time. So Emma would beat Becky at the Money in the Bank pre-show instead. Who becomes Natalia's tag team partner? I'm gonna say Paige. Just because. Because I think Paige would want to get her hands on Charlotte Flair. And Charlotte Flair and Dana Brooke become a team as you would expect. And some of you are probably wondering, wouldn't Emma be a good choice considering that Dana Brooke just let Emma? Nah, Emma would still be the same. She obviously wouldn't really care at this point, in all honesty. And now this is where things get a little bit more interesting. In my opinion. This is where Natalya turns heel. Instead of it being on Becky, this time it's on Paige. And now we get to the draft. As we all know, the draft happened around about Battleground time, so this is where things are gonna get very interesting. All the women that were currently drafted on their original brands happened as you expect. But what about AJ? Well, AJ, I'm gonna leave her out just for a moment. Just listen. Would there be any slight differences in the draft? Yes. There would be one specific change that I would make, and that would be Paige. Paige would get moved to SmackDown so she can continue her feud with Natalya. And that would also mean Alberto Del Rio would be on SmackDown as well. Yay! In my what if, Alberto and Paige stay in WWE. Because that was the only reason why Alberto left WWE in the first place, because WWE broke them up. Now, another thing I think a lot of people would be wondering, what about AJ Styles? AJ Styles, wouldn't AJ Styles lose his name because he had AJ Lee? Is now AJ Lee still in the company? Well, honestly, I don't think a wrestler should lose their name just because another person is there. So just for the sake of the story, AJ Styles does keep AJ Styles. He does keep his name. Because some people have said that if AJ Lee was still there, AJ Styles would probably have been known as Alan Jones, or he would have been under a different name. But just for the sake of the story, AJ Styles does keep his name. So where would I put AJ? Well, I would put her on SmackDown, to be quite honest with you, because I think it would be intriguing. But with AJ being on SmackDown, she can feud with the likes of Alexa Bliss and possibly even Carmella, if you want to go down that road. Like I said, the first draft happens as per normal. Everything that happened in the first draft is exactly how it is. Seth Rollins on Raw is the first draft pick. John Cena's on SmackDown. Bray Wyatt's on SmackDown. You know what I mean. The first draft, everyone who was drafted originally in the first draft would still be on there, besides Paige, because I think moving Paige to SmackDown, just for the sake of feuding with Natalya, would be one of the only changes I think that would have changed the whole thing. But possibly maybe somebody else would have been moved to Raw, just because, because Paige is probably there. What about everything else leading up to this point? Well, Battleground would be exactly the same. There wouldn't really be much difference to it. And I guess just because SummerSlam would be a lot different as well. Nikki Bella would have came back at SummerSlam, but I guess it would have been a lot more different. She'd be in a tag team match just as originally scheduled. Eva Marie would have been the main focus because WWE wanted to push her at that period of time. And also, people are probably wondering, would she still get suspended? I guess just for the sake of the argument that she does. Just because. In case if people just want to go by that. Roman Reigns also takes his suspension too, as well. But I think Alberto and Paige would not take their suspensions because reason? They're on the same brand, so they wouldn't do anything stupid to get themselves in trouble. I think SummerSlam would have had a big, massive turn. I think AJ would have been a part of that women's tag team match instead. I reckon it would probably be a little bit different. Nikki Bella would make her return, and her team would still get the win. But this is where I would make a big, massive ultimatum. AJ Lee turns heel. Why? Well, Nikki Bella's on SmackDown, so I think AJ at this point would realize that her career is starting to slowly die down, and her popularity is starting to die down. People still love her, but her popularity isn't getting her anywhere, so she needs to try something else. I think turning her heel instead of Carmella would been a big more impactful. So then AJ, she could have one more feud with Nikki Bella before she finally retires. So I think AJ and Nikki would have had a couple of months feud, maybe like a 2-month feud, and they'd probably put an end to it, maybe at No Mercy or something. Nikki Bella once again goes over AJ in their final feud, and AJ Lee would announce her retirement. So there you go. If AJ stayed a little bit longer, a lot more longer, she definitely would have had a slight impact. But I think at this point, by what I was saying in the story, she kinda didn't have a lot to do in 2016. With all these new women coming up, AJ wouldn't have a lot to do. She'd just become, just there just to put over other people. She would have put over Alexa, she'd put over Carmella, she'd put over other people. And also, in case if people are wondering what would have happened at Backlash, just because Becky Lynch still does become the inaugural SmackDown Women's Champion. Just because I think, Becky winning the Women's Championship at that point was definitely a good moment. So I'm going to keep that. I'm not going to take that moment off of Nikki Bella. Instead of it being Carmella, I'd have that be AJ. I'd have Becky make AJ tap out to the Sama, as much that would hurt me, honestly. But I'd have Becky beat AJ to win the inaugural women's title. And then you can have AJ, have one more match with Nikki Bella at No Mercy, and then, she can ride off into the sunset and retire once and for all. So there you go, guys. That has been my story on what if AJ did not leave WWE early. Now, I'm not going to say this is a video of me saying what if she never did leave WWE, because then I'd be going on to what's been going on now in 2017, and that would make a huge long video. I will leave it up to you guys if you want to see a part 2 of this story. So what do you guys think? Do you think this is a good topic? Do you want me to do more what if stories? And do you want me to do a part 2 of this discussion? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Catch you later.